Hello, welcome to Central Florida Salute YouTube. I'm your host, Bob Peters, and with me is Brigadier General retired Tim Sullivan. He's not only a Brigadier General retired, he's also a friend. And he has had quite the service. Welcome to the show, General.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, at our age, we're glad to be anywhere.
I know, that's right. 6 feet up instead of 6 feet under.
But tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, where you're from originally, and let's go over your career a little bit.
Yeah.
How did you wind up in the National Guard?
That's kind of a crazy story. I grew up in Gaffney, South Carolina, moved to Leesburg when I was 16 years old. When it came to go to college, I had two choices. I could go to Lake Sumter Community College and actually got offered a basketball scholarship, or I could go to the Citadel, a military college in South Carolina, which my two older brothers had gone. So I knew a little bit about it. And so I really felt like I needed to get away from home, so I went to the Citadel. Unfortunately, my brothers didn't tell me what I was getting into when I was going there. And, you know, your first year is kind of like going through boot camp. So, yeah. But it was a great experience. And so I graduated from there, got a regular Army commission, and commissioned in field artillery. Spent 6 months in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Had some other interim duties. I actually was a trainer for ROTC summer camp, and it was the first year that they had included females into the program. So it was a very interesting time. And then from there I spent 3 years in Germany. I was a Pershing missile officer, which means I handled the nuclear end of the missile for the German Air Force. Lived on the German economy, worked with the German Air Force.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, it was very, very,
I've been to Germany, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and it wasn't like the traditional thing that was happening with living in a big compound with American compound and that kind of stuff. I literally was immersed in the German culture, so to speak. So worked with the German Air Force, and they were just great people. And there were very few captains around, so my first 6 months I worked in a lieutenant slot, and in my last 2.5 years I was in a captain slot. So
that's good.
Yeah. So, and then I got out, came home, and started working for local government for about 18 months, and realized I couldn't be a bureaucrat, and I joined Prudential. And I'd been with them for a couple of years, and a friend of mine tried to talk me into becoming an infantry officer in the Florida National Guard. And so fortunately, my packet got called at state headquarters, and the guy says, "What's a nuclear qualified artillery officer going infantry for?" And at the time,
I don't know.
I know, that's exactly right. I said, "Well, they told me there's not any artillery units." And he said, "Yeah, but I got a brand new one. I'm a battalion commander." And so anyway, he went and fought the battle at the state level to get me to join the artillery battalion that I went to. And from there, I did everything from command company level to the battalion level to even at the brigade level. So, and in the 90s, after Desert Storm, they downsized the military by 35% across the board. So all of a sudden, the National Guard was very, very important to any time you deployed. So today, I think it still holds true that 50% of the combat power of the Army is in the National Guard.
Yeah, I had someone come on and tell me that every third or fourth deployment is a Guard unit.
Yeah.
But when I was in Vietnam and during Vietnam, we didn't see you guys.
Never see it. Nobody ever
We only
deployed.
saw you in the chow hall.
Yeah.
At the base, home base.
Yeah.
But,
the world changed a lot.
Yeah, and you guys, after Vietnam, you got all that equipment from Vietnam, and now all of a sudden you're.
Yeah.
And you've had quite a few. I want to read a couple of your citations.
Okay.
Or do you want to read them?
No, you read them.
You got the Legion of Merit, Bronze Star.
Yes.
Meritorious Service Medal, 1 bronze oak leaf clover, Army Commendation Medal with 4 bronze stars, clusters, Army Achievement Medal, Army Reserve Components Medal, whatever that is. What does that mean?
Which one? Let's see.
The Army, what about that?
Oh, here we go. National Defense Medal, War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, the War on Terrorism Service Medal. And so expeditionary means I deployed overseas.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Right. And the terrorism, everybody got that was in at that time. And let's see, the National Defense Service Medal. And the last one there is the highest honor given, military honor given in the state of Florida. It's called the Florida Cross.
Oh yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, that's a National Guard medal, and awarded by the governor to people who served. So,
well, you've had a long career. How many years did you do in the
I
Guard?
did almost 25 in the Guard, but my total service is almost 33 years.
Wow.
So I saw lots and lots of changes. It's amazing. And well, after 9/11, that's probably when it got real crazy. 10 days after 9/11, I got called to active duty. I was part of something called the 32nd Army Air and Missile Defense Command. I had branch transferred from field artillery to air defense artillery. And so I deployed with the 3rd Army to Kuwait, and basically my job as a liaison officer for the 32nd was to coordinate all the Patriot missile systems in theater. So while I was my year there, we had 21 Scuds shot at us. We shot down 13 of them, and 8 landed in the desert. So,
wow.
So it was an interesting career. And
how long were you over there?
I was there for a year.
1 year?
Yeah. Came home right at the end of my tour because my wife was battling cancer. So they put me on emergency leave. I came home, and the Florida National Guard calls me and says, "Are you home?" I already had orders to stay another year, and they go, "Well, we want you to do something different in the National Guard." So they were interviewing people to take over the 50th Area Support Group, which is a major command. It was a brigade level. And so anyway, I got the job. So they reworked my orders, and I went to the 50th Area Support Group, and in my speech to take over, I said, with the way the world is, what we're going to train for is go to war. And less than 6 months later, we got the order to go to war.
Yeah.
So, I was home for about a year, and heck, all I did was go to schools and learn more about logistics than I ever wanted to know. And so we deployed to the Middle East and Kuwait, and actually, from the time I got on the plane to the time I got to Kuwait, our orders changed.
Really?
Yeah. Very interesting how you meet people and they influence your life. So I report in, and I don't know what my new orders are. And so this young captain comes up and says, "You need to come see the Chief of Staff for the 3rd Army." Okay, so I go over there, and it's a friend of mine that I had spent the year with, the year I was there, who we used to play penny ante poker and drink non-alcoholic beers on our day off.
Non-alcoholic?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. No alcohol in Kuwait.
We didn't have no such thing.
Yeah. So anyway, he says he's now the Chief of Staff for 3rd Army, and he goes, "Well," he says, "I was reviewing the units coming in," and he said, "I had 3 choices, and I looked at who the commanders were," and he said, "So that's why your orders got changed. I want you working here in Kuwait with me as opposed to deploying into southern Iraq." So it turned out to be very, very helpful, but we ran the largest logistics operation since D-Day, when 125,000 soldiers came in and out of Iraq.
Wow.
So I had 2,500 soldiers I was in charge of, and we did the force protection and all the logistics operations for the 3rd Army in that time period. So
Well, when did you make general? You started out like as a lieutenant, right?
Yeah, I started out as lieutenant, got promoted to general officer after I came back. You have to be a graduate of the United States Army War College to be a general. And I had applied, and while I was in my second tour in the desert, I was an alternate. And somebody dropped out, and they called me 7 months into my commitment overseas and said, "Do you still want to go to the War College?" And I'll never forget, there's a friend of mine from state headquarters, and I go, "Let's see, do I want to be 8,000 miles closer to home where they got green grass and cold beer? Or do I want to be divorced? Because if my wife knew that I didn't come back early, I'd been divorced." So anyway, took that obligation, went to the Army War College, and while I was at the Army War College, got selected to make Brigadier General. And that was so I got promoted in 2006.
Wow.
So
quite the career.
Well, and it was interesting because the war was going on, so they made me I was a assistant adjutant general Army in the National Guard, tasked out to command something called the 83rd Troop Command, and that's where all the units that don't have a brigade headquarters, basically. And so every unit that I had assigned to me got deployed, and so I had the most combat experience and was big on standards, and so I was a certifying officer for all those units to get deployed.
So you were in Kuwait, and where else were you?
Just in Kuwait.
Just in Kuwait.
Yeah, Kuwait City. Moved
Did you
from.
get to meet any of the local military?
I did. I worked closely my first tour with the Kuwaiti Air Defense guys. We trained together all the time, and as a matter of fact, we'd have a weekly meeting and discuss training and all that kind of stuff. And the 3-star that I worked for came to me and said, "You know, the Kuwaitis love you, and they this and that, and so on and so forth." And he said, "But, you know, you got to kind of help them once in a while, because we were doing everything at their headquarters and all that kind of stuff." Well, I didn't realize, you know, if they come on post, they get to go to the PX and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we started rotating the meetings, and man, it's amazing the things we got done.
They showed up for those meetings, didn't they?
That's right. That's right. So it was great.
Yeah. So you married to Mary?
Yep.
And you have 2 daughters and 2 grandchildren.
Yeah, actually 5 grandchildren. My daughter, my youngest daughter, remarried, and so I inherited. I only had 1 grandson, and now I have 4. But they're all. The youngest one is 17, so it's.
I don't want to go into what I. But anyway, yeah. So I know you worked for Prudential for a while after you got out.
Right.
And you also were a county commissioner, right?
I was.
But the general is much more important to me than the county commissioner. I got to be honest.
I understand. You know, it's interesting. While I went back into the National Guard, I had to develop a philosophy of life, and my belief is that, you know, your family comes first, your country, your community, based on your faith, and the Army was a way for me to be able to return to the country that I love and serve, and so that's why I went back in. And of course, originally when I went back in, I said, "Oh heck, I only got to do 15 years, and I can get a retirement out of this." And 25 years later, I retired. So. But and I had great experiences. I mean, you know, I felt like something was missing after being on active duty for 3 years, and you know, Bob, the camaraderie you have in the military is nothing like anything else you can.
We did an interview with a gentleman who was in World War II. He was 100. He was I think 102 when we interviewed.
Wow.
He just turned 102. He was in World War II. He was in Korea, and he was in Vietnam. And I looked at him and I said, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Didn't you have enough? He says, I had to get back in the action.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you do develop a bond in the military, and you know, it is a brotherhood.
It is.
Say brotherhood, sisterhood, same. It's like IBEW is a brotherhood. Ladies and men are both.
Yeah.
It's just a term, brotherhood. It's not, doesn't mean not excluding women. It means it's.
Absolutely. You know, it's like I talked about females in the military a little bit earlier, and the first females that came into artillery came in Pershing. And so right as I was leaving Germany, we got some females assigned to us. And so I never got to work with them there, but later on in my career, when I was an air defense brigade or battalion commander, my whole headquarters battery was all females. So it was interesting times. And then, of course, by the time I deployed in 2001, I actually had officers, I had a whole slew of staff, and I took the female officer, my only one female officer, because she had backgrounds in missile systems, but also communications. So she really, you know, move, shoot, and communicate.
Most qualified.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, very interesting times, you know.
Yeah.
And then you deploy over there, and you got 2,500 soldiers assigned to you, and you know, the most of them are 19, 20, 21 years old, so you can get into all kind of mischief with all that kind of stuff. So that was probably a challenge to.
Yeah, I was one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So I know you do a lot of different events, and we were at the Veterans Park today,
Yes.
you and I, and we did a show there.
That's an amazing place,
Isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, you know what's interesting was as we were there this morning, they dedicated a memorial to the American Revolutionaries. I mean, think about it. Think about this. Those were all volunteer soldiers. Without them, where would we be today? 250 years later.
You know, there's a lot of history with all that. But when we were talking about women, there was women that snuck into the military,
Oh yeah.
disguised as men,
Oh.
and they didn't know any until they got wounded, and then
Yeah.
they realized, well, this
Oh,
is
wow.
not a man,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, women have always been a big part of the military. But you do a lot of. You're on my YouTube show.
Absolutely.
Way back
Way back.
when you were at the museum, Paris.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember what the occasion was.
Yeah.
But today, you know, being there at the park, we're right next to the armory. Now, you were not with that armory.
No, that's an infantry unit. That was a 53rd Infantry Brigade. So,
Where was yours, basically?
Plant City, Florida is where I started. Then I went to the big city of Wauchula and commanded a battery. And then from there, I went to Sarasota to be in Wauchula. And Wauchula is, well, they raise cattle and citrus there. So that's about it.
Okay.
Wide place in the road. Of course, it's grown today. Who knows what it's like?
Oh, yeah.
And then I went from there to Sarasota, where I was a operations officer for an artillery battalion. That unit was the first to arrive on scene for Hurricane Andrew, when $30 billion damage across South Florida. So that was a 8-week experience where I got to know a lot of people from a lot of different places.
That was quite a storm and everything. And basically, that was like what the Guard used to do, like
Oh yeah.
called up for storms and
Yeah.
what have you.
And we never had plans even in the Florida National Guard to do anything more than a battalion, because it had never had do that. So they didn't deploy any brigade headquarters. So I had 5 battalions assigned to me, and then the 10th Mountain Division came down and did. They had 6,000 soldiers doing humanitarian efforts, just helping clean up, overlaid my units that I was running. or operating. And as a matter of fact, I spent 8 lovely weeks at the McDonald's at the end of the turnpike right there in Homestead. So very interesting. But what was really interesting about that,
I never met a general that had an office in McDonald's.
no, I know. Well, I had one, and corporate McDonald's actually came and opened it for us to let us use it. And we used, just amazing. Of course, with some of the looting that was going on, that probably saved them a few bucks, but we utilized it.
Sure, yeah.
And it was the only place around. But part of my experience there was that was actually the first time that the National Guard, it was considered a major deployment for the Army. And it was the first time in history that the National Guard was in before the active duty. So, and like I said, 10th Mountain was there, and so I overlaid with them, and little did I know years later that would come back to be a big deal, because when I was in the 32nd Army Air and Missile Defense Command, they had gotten deployed to Kuwait, so they had to call on us that were still back here in the National Guard to cover some of their exercises. So there was a big exercise called a Blue Flag exercise, which is a command post exercise, and so they called me and said, gosh, can you get up there tomorrow? Well, kind of unusual for a National Guardsman to have 1 day notice to go somewhere. And so I had no access to anything, no secret papers or anything. So I was deployed up there, and these full bird colonels, I think I was a lieutenant colonel at the time, were all over me. Just, man, you got to brief the 3-star, and well, I hadn't read up on anything, and I said, well,
You gotta wing it.
I said, that's right. I said, well, you might as well just take me in there and let me do my thing. So I get up there, and I say, sir, who I am and where I'm from and all that kind of stuff. And he said, I know all about you. He said, you don't remember me, do you? And I said, no, sir, I don't. He goes, I was the commander of 10th Mountain when you were running the show down there. So small world. Well, anyway, from that point forward, I had a new statute in life. Those colonels were being very, very nice to me at that point forward. So it's just that kind of experiences, because the Army is very small, and when you get to the colonel level, they say the Army is really run by colonels, and I can attest to that, because some of them helped me out. And
I have to take your word for it, because, to be honest with you, I only met one general.
Yeah.
When I was in the in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't much of a meeting. I was walking down the street, and the car comes up with the star on it and everything. The window rolls down and says, "Hey, Airman, get your hands out of your pockets."
Oh boy.
That was it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you've had a wonderful career, but you know what I like about you? You're not only have you served your country and admirably and done a lot, but you also still do a lot. If there's an event going on, and talk about the military and the families, and the sad part about saying to a family goodbye, you've done that, right?
I've done that. That's probably the most honorable and the most difficult thing I ever did, was to present the American flag to the soldiers' families killed in combat.
Yeah.
And I did that over a dozen times. I did 3 as a colonel when I had, in my 50th Area Support Group, I had 3 kids that were, heck, I'll tell this story. This is a tough one. We're on active duty because we do drug interdiction with the drug people, and so they were on active duty, and went to christen their newborn baby, and had a car accident. The car blew out, and the van turned over and killed 3 of my soldiers and 2 sisters, and it was that was a difficult one. That's probably the most difficult one. It was my first one too, and having 2 daughters, it made it even tougher. So anyway, but it's amazing. Well, I think that's why I stayed in the military, because soldiers are a different breed. Airmen Navy, it doesn't matter. They're all volunteers since 1973, and they're just great people. You know, it's just like us going today down to that Memorial Park, and, you know, everybody in the world ought to visit that place. You know, it shows the history of every conflict we've been there, because, you know, the military is the only where you take an oath of office that says up to and including your life. So it's,
there is, like I say, that bond, and I agree wholeheartedly. One of the things we try to do is educate through our not-for-profit. We are not, we're not large. It's just that wonderful lady over there and I. That's it, you know. And we do what we can, and we want to educate. And you know, if you look at the end of any of my shows, you'll see my back and two of my great-grandkids holding my hands, and we're walking.
Oh, wow.
And I try to take them to a museum, or I took them up to Spirit Equine Therapy for, you know, PTSD and all that.
Yep.
And we visited that. I try to educate them, because young people today, and we're going to do a show later on. Well, I'm going to be doing a show with Bob here, Benderman. He's the first vice. And we got a shadow box, and we're going to be talking about the shadow box and the significance of the shadow box.
Yep.
So the things like that we try to get out so young people understand. You know, I've told this story several times when I went to Eustis High School. They were brought in the Vietnam Veterans Wall.
Oh, yeah.
And I went there with like 4 or 5, I think it was 5 guys.
Yep.
A couple of Army,
Yep.
Marine, Navy. And we talked about what we see versus what you see. You see a name, we see a face, we share a memory.
Right.
That's what we see when we see a wall.
Yep.
And we asked the girl about World War II, and she says, "Oh, you mean WWII?" It was fought in Germany. And then another boy came out and said, Hitler rose to power in Germany after World War I. He fought in World War I, which is correct, he did. Mm-hmm. He says, and he was going to make Germany great again, what have you. And I don't think he was a bad guy. And my eyeballs went to the top of my head. And I said, you might want to look at Gene Klein on my show. Gene Klein's a Holocaust survivor.
Oh, wow.
And all these other men and women who sacrificed so much.
Yep.
You know, we don't have what we have by luck. We have because of our men and women who served.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. I mean, and there'll always be a threat out there. I mean, what's going on now? Just think of all the sailors and airmen we got deployed right now in Marines. To take out a regime that's, we won't go. We don't do politics. Yeah, I know.
You know what they say? You can always question the war, but you can never question a warrior.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
Yep, because it's the soldiers, sailors, airmen, marine who carry out political. You know, well, they say war is the extension of the political process, but the people who have to carry it out carry the most damage.
But anyway, so you did a total of how many years?
33, almost 33. 32 years, 9 months, and 16 days or something.
Counting, right?
Who's counting, right?
Yeah. Well, I thank you for your service, sir, and it's a pleasure getting to know you, and I'm happy that I can call you friend. Like I said, well, I have met a couple generals since I've been out.
Yeah.
But when I was in, it was just that one. And
well, Bob, I've always considered myself a citizen soldier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Citizen first and soldier second. But, and I had a very positive experience, you know, and my kids might disagree with that because I was gone so much.
Yeah, that's the tough part about it, you know. When I was in, it was a draft, and you know, so I went in 67, which was the big years, 66, 67, 69. Those were the big years.
Yep.
And I was single, so I didn't worry about anything, you know. I was young and dumb, you know.
I understand.
But,
understand. But you do great work, and what y'all do here is just amazing. I think we have to tell that story. And keep telling it because of all the things you talked about with those Eustis High School kids. You know, it's not their fault.
Yeah, you know, you're right. It's not their fault, and I try to tell the parents and get involved. You know, instead of maybe every time going to the amusement park, maybe go to a museum and learn. You know, education is amazing. You know, but yeah. So and I know you do a lot of community service still, but you're also playing golf, right?
Well, I'd like to play golf. Actually, I played softball 4 days a week with a bunch of teams, and so that got me out of the golf game for about 6 months. And I got to get out there and start hitting because I have a grandson that's 17, and if he ever learns how to putt, he's going to tear me up because he can hit it long and hard and fast, and so I need to go practice.
Okay.
So, and that's the only thing. I chase my grandson around. He plays baseball from Outdoor Christian Academy. And this summer, for instance, he'll play in a travel ball league. So I will be all over Central Florida at baseball tournaments. And so retirement allows me to do a lot of good stuff like that. So, and some of that I do because, like I just talked about, I was gone a lot, so I didn't get to do that with my daughters, you know. So but anyway, it's great. But we live in a great community. I mean, the veterans organizations around here are all top notch.
This post right here, AMVETS Post 2006, they support us financially. They help us out because it takes money to put on a show and everything, and travel and gas and this and that. And luckily, I have a partner over there who doesn't charge me. Actually, she did it for free for a year. I was the one that said I can't do this no more because you're losing money because she has a business. Yeah. You know, Wild Zebra Media. If you need somebody, contact Wild Zebra Media. You got to get a plug-in for
There you go. Absolutely.
Absolutely. She does a fantastic job, and she'll make us look good on the YouTube.
And that's a tough task.
But I appreciate all you've done, and you had a fantastic career in the military serving our country. But I think unless you have something you want to talk about, an experience or closing comment, whatever. Well,
just the support, and we do this on on this radio show. You know, veterans need to take advantage of every resource they have because they've given it their all, whether it was 2 years or 3 years or whatever. They were always subject to deployment anywhere.
Now that you mentioned the radio show, we'll have to talk about 1410 the Q radio station. AM, 1410 AM and 95.5, I think it is too. But FM. And that's James Floyd. James, I'm trying to make some points with you. He puts on a show, the Veterans Resource and Recovery, where we talk about different things in the community that's going on. I'll be talking this coming Friday, matter of fact, with Habitat for Humanity and some of the projects they're doing for veterans and the families. And you come on one week and I'm on the other week.
Right.
And sometimes we're together.
Yep, sometimes we're together. And we always interview veterans to the best of our ability, and the stories they tell are always entertaining.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you, if you go out my YouTube, 1936 Olympics.
Wow.
That guy who was in the 1936 Olympics.
Wow. That
Medal of Honor, World War II Flying Aces. Everybody's there. It's amazing.
It's amazing. It is amazing.
That's why I like doing what I'm doing, because I have learned so much from all these men and women who served our country, and I sit there in awe with some of them.
Yep.
Just listening to what they've done to make this country the greatest country in the world.
Well, and I think in my case, my parents set that example for me. So,
Well, I had a couple of uncles who served them, and we talked about that before. That they were a big part of my influence, but my parents, my mother was about volunteering. You're making a difference. If you're not making a difference, what's your purpose?
Right.
And I as a teenager was doing Special Olympics.
Oh, wow.
And that's a few years ago.
Yeah.
But
amazing.
A lot of men, and we talk about it all the time. If you're a veteran or a son or a daughter or whatever, get involved in a veterans organization. Make a difference.
And this year is a great year to get involved because it's the 250th anniversary of this great country we live in.
Yeah.
I'm involved with the Leesburg Boat Club, and we're dedicating on July 4th a 80-foot flagpole with a 20 by 30-foot flag to put on the point down here to the city of Leesburg to celebrate the 250th anniversary. So, as a matter of fact, I pick up some hot leads about, between AMVETS, after seeing those guys march on down there at the memorial today, man, I'm thinking maybe we need to expand this thing a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, General, I think we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
Unless you have something else you want to say.
No, thank you very much for having me.
You
do great
it's my
work.
honor. It's my honor to have a general on my show and a general who's my friend.
There you go.
So, but we're going to have to say goodbye, and we're looking at camera. You know how we do it.
I do.
To all our veterans and active military and their families, we salute you for all you do. Till next time. Today I'm at AMVETS Post 2006, a major sponsor of Central Florida Salute, and I want to introduce to you the commander here, Ronnie Mack. Ronnie, tell us a little bit about AMVETS 2006. Where are you located? And
we are at 500 North Canal Street, Leesburg, Florida. It's right off of 441, between 441 and Main Street on Canal. Can't miss us. And we're a veterans organization, along with, we have an auxiliary, and we have sons of veterans that are related some form or another to a veteran. And we do a lot for a lot of charitable donations and stuff to charities in the area and in the county. And we're a major sponsor to Central Florida Salute. We're proud of it. We're glad to be. You guys do a heck of a job, and we'll sponsor you as long as I'm here. We're going to sponsor you. So.
Well, I'll tell you what, we do. Sue and I really appreciate it. We're a two-person operation, and what we try to do with education and supporting our veterans community, and you supporting us is major thing. It's major.
We're glad to do it, Bob. We're glad to do it.
And you have sons here. You have auxiliary here. You've got a website too, if somebody wants to join.
Yep, it's don't punch into www. It's amvets-2006.org, and it'll take you right to our website, Facebook page, and all that's there, and you'll be able to find that. The webmaster, he tries to get the calendar on there every month, anything pertinent. There's a lot of other links on there for veterans to find out where to get help for certain claims and stuff like that. Our webmaster's really into that stuff. That's the guy you ought to be interviewing right there. So,
well, you know what,
he's got
Ronnie?
a lot of stuff.
You have a lot of clout. You tell him to talk to me, and we'll get him on the show. Okay?
I can do that.
All right. But I just want to, on behalf of Sue and myself, we want to thank AMVETS 2006 because you guys are the major players behind us, and we appreciate it.
But we just wish we could do more. We really do.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys are awesome.